Morning, Washington, D.C., my beautiful America, my shining city on a hill. I'm Eden Gordon Hill, and welcome to the All American Book Club. We have a very special guest joining us this morning. You all love Great American Pure Flix. You guys are such a support to Great American Pure Flix and what they're doing. They're bringing hope, family, and faith to the screen. And so we're honored to have this morning Emily Rose. She is a phenomenal and beautiful actress. You have seen her in so many different shows, but we have a special surprise that just was launched this week, a TV mini series called Destination Heaven. I am so excited to share this powerful new series with you, thanks to Emily Rose. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, Emily, I absolutely love the work that is happening at Great American Pure Flix. And I want to hear a little bit personally first about you and what has inspired you in this role at with Destination Heaven. If you could share us a little bit about that first.
Yeah, well, my good friend Dean Batali was the writer on this show, and he and I have commiserated and bonded for years and years and years about being in the entertainment industry and having having a personal faith and having just that in common. And so he was really excited to bring this dialogue of people in their normal day-to-day lives having these conversations with God the Father.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do it in a real grounded way. And so I was a little leery at first about doing an episode like that. But when he told me that Harry Lennox was going to be playing God, who is an incredible actor, very respected, I thought, oh, this is really cool. This could be done really well and with a lot of nuance to it and groundedness to it. And so I was really excited to be asked, and then made me want to jump aboard.
Well, one thing I wanted to share with you and our audience, I have so many friends who are mothers who are raising our next generation. And one of my friends said to me in upstate New York when I was visiting, she said, Eden, she said, I just want more of quality television that I can sit our family down in front of and know that I'm not going to have to mute it, censor it, take it off. And
Yep.
she said, that's one thing I love about Great American Pure Flix, Great American Media, and what they're doing for our families. And Destination Heaven, as soon as I saw the screener to it, I started messaging her and all my friends who are moms saying, you guys, this is coming out. This is a great TV mini series. We can get our kids in front of it and know that they're going to be inspired and have, even a deeper faith. And if they don't have a faith, have an understanding of how precious our God is.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
love what I saw in the first episode with you and Kevin Sorbo. Can you
mm.
talk about your character and then originally what happens? Because obviously the first episode aired last night. And if for the audience who has not been able to sit down and watch it, share a little bit about just the initial aspect of you and God sitting down to pray. And then
Mhm.
when Kevin Sorbo comes in as the homeless man.
Yeah, well, I was really, really thankful. What I love about this series is I've been saying, and I'm stealing this saying from a friend that I love it, but it's just where you're getting to have the second part of the conversation, which what I mean by that is, it's not a family type of viewing where it's like, hey, we're going to introduce these morals to the world, or hey, we think that maybe you should investigate having a faith. Like all of these different things that they're highlighting, they are things where people who say, you know what, that's the kind of person I want to be. But
Right.
when I sit and I talk with God, who is a relational God,
Mhm.
what is he calling me to in a deeper way? And exactly what you're saying, as a mother of three kids, I am every Friday night, it's a big conversation about what movie are we going to watch together as a family. And I love being able to have a network, or when I with my an iPad, I can hand off and say, hey, stay in this, anything in here, you're free, go for it. There's no like, no, well, I need to, and so I really appreciate that about the network, but I appreciate that we're moving into this even deeper space of, hey, we're not going to hit you over the head with this stuff. This is accepted when you're watching the show. And now let's talk about the nuance and the challenge where the rubber meets the road of, hey, you want to be a generous person. You think you're a generous person. What does that look like? When life interrupts your space like that, are you still able to move forward into that space of love and generosity? What does that look like in a safe way? What practically does that look like
Mhm.
in our marriages? It's one thing to say, I'm committed to you, I love you, I'm gonna, whatnot. But as you go on in your journey, when the rubber meets the road, what does that faith intersection, how does that make a difference in your marriage? What does that call you to? All of these deeper conversations are things
Yeah.
you can have these conversations just all watching this TV show, which is great.
One thing I loved about one of the scenes that, if our viewers haven't checked it out yet, was the kitchen table conversation. This show was founded on my previous work of having kitchen table conversations, engaging with our community, engaging with our neighbors who we may not know, engaging
Mm,
with our kids, and having people over for dinner, breaking
mm.
bread together, and really being able to have that family conversation, which I admire Bill Abbott and what he has done in Great American Media. He has brought that back to the screen where it
Mhm.
has been ripped from the very fabrics of our culture. And so that one of those scenes that you and your husband and your kids, can you describe that scene to our listeners this morning?
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's when somebody is sitting at our table, how you as a parent begin to look, examine, or see how your family's operating.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're hosting all your kids' manners, all the respect, all of your values, all of that is coming out. Whether it's, oh, we don't have a rhythm of togetherness, so why are we sitting at the table? Or, oh, but we talk about these things so candidly at the table, but now we have someone listening in. And what do we really believe? And what kind of a parent I'm going to be when I want to control the situation?
Yeah.
All of those dynamics are at play at the dinner table. And I love that you highlighted that. I mean, it's a rhythm in our family that we have regularly because I have younger kids. So I don't really think of it being something that is as unusual, but you're right, it is. And what is unusual too is like, hey, God asks us to invite and to have community, and
Mhm.
we feel safe doing that with our people that we feel safe with. But
Right.
what does that practically, can we do that all the time? Not necessarily, but also how can we do that? I'm a part of a really fantastic church in our area, and recently we have 3 Sundays that are services, and we have one Sunday where it's not a service. We all just come together and we're serving the community together during that time. And we're having meals with people who are in need, and we're, providing things to the community. And to me, that's showing my kids, hey, this is a way that we do this. This is a way we make this practical. We're asking you to do this. We read that this should be a part of our lives, but how do we do it? And so that's what I love about this series too. It's kind of a, a practical guide on how to do these things.
No, absolutely. The other aspects to what I loved about your character in Destination Heaven, this new TV mini series that started this week, that has what, 6 or 7 episodes? I lost count because I'm
Yeah,
looking through all
I
of that.
I I
But there's
can't remember
plenty.
how.
There's plenty to
Yeah,
take us through mid-June, especially as our families may be transitioning from school to summer.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what now can we put in front of our families to entertain, but
yeah.
also that whole faith perspective. But a couple pieces I loved about this episode, giving the clothes off of our back,
Mm-hmm.
really. And,
The conversation about the jacket and the dry
the
cleaning. I mean, just the realities. But I love that jacket, just those realities. Yes.
absolutely. And, I'm going to cite my previous work. Years ago, I served at the Bowery Mission, which is one of the oldest homeless rescue missions in New York City and in the nation. And they
Mm,
always did a coat drive. And
mm,
I was always pushing it out from the PR perspective. But I also said, you know what? I'm not just your communications person. I want to go and work with the homeless. I want to hear their stories. I want to understand what happened to them that have to be in this spot.
Yep.
I want to go serve them. And it's similar to the community gathering that your church has, being
Mhm.
able to be behind and serving those who are really struggling. This culture today, so many people are so quietly struggling. And I
Mhm.
think what this series is doing is opening up portals for people to be able to sit down and just do those simple prayers of faith
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
saying, he does hear you. Talk
Mhm.
about what that was like. I love how Harry Lennox is just like, he comes to you in this whole form and fashion. And I loved how he really kind of met you where you were. Can you talk about his character a little bit too?
Yeah, I think the thing I love, I've been saying this that I love about the show too, is because we wanted it to be so authentic. There's not a lot of the stereotypical ways you see things depicted. Like if I'm
Yeah.
praying for my meal, if Jenna's praying for a meal, she's not like,
Yeah.
dear,
Yeah.
it's like that's not
Yeah.
how any of us necessarily pray,
Right.
it's just very quiet and then she meets God and she doesn't believe what she's seeing and he's approaching her in a way and she's inquisitive and he's bantering with her and he knows her mind and he's causing her to think and listen, that is what we read in the Bible. People believed that God was going to appear in this
Mhm.
one specific in the box way, and when he came as a baby, totally different,
Yeah.
that kind of blew their minds and they
Yeah.
had to wrap their heads around it. And so we see Jenna being like, "Why am I at work and now I'm at work and now I'm having this conversation?" But she also welcomes it and allows it to challenge her and allows herself to go on the journey of, okay, I'm not quite sure, I'm going to keep looking and poking and growing and moving in the direction I feel like God is calling me to. And what I also like about it is, okay, this conversation of homelessness and generosity and like, hey, I'm going to give and it just feels so good to give, and shouldn't the person be thankful and now I feel better about myself? No, 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 that doesn't happen for her. What if he's not thankful? Is it really about him being thankful, or is it about her doing what she's been called to do and what that looks like? And um, I think it's cool. There's so many different ways and different seasons of your life to be helpful or to be generous and to examine why we do it. Some of these things,
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day of a guy who's a hairstylist who was washing and giving haircuts to homeless people to give
Mhm.
them more
Yeah.
dignity. Or I've worked with a photographer before who did a whole day in downtown Los Angeles on Skid Row, Jeremy Cowart, giving self-portraits and family portraits to homeless people because they've never had a photograph of themselves.
Mm.
Like there are just different ways to care for people. And if we can get out of the way we think checks the box purely to check the box so I feel better about myself, and maybe at the end of the year when I'm doing my taxes, my accountant can see all the cool things I got. Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this and why are we being called to do this? And are we going to accept the challenge to do this even if there is no recognition for it
Mhm.
in any way, not even from the person we're giving it to? I think all of those things are important things to think about.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because you are challenging our nation's capital. You are challenging our leaders at
Mhm.
both sides of the aisle who need to be awakened to really what is happening in their backyard, whether it's their constituencies or whether if you have been to DC local recently, there is a massive amount of homelessness canvassing the whole United States capital area. And so with that faith perspective and with just the awakening of our nation, that thirst, that hunger that so many of us have, people of faith, those who are searching, those who have turned away from the faith, Destination Heaven and this TV mini series can be such a portal and such a offering of hope to those who may be in that in between space where God still meets them. And I think people forget that. I think they just completely are like, no, he's not going to meet us in the waiting room, but yes, he is. And
Mhm.
you and your characters in Destination Heaven really portray that and bring to the forefront. In the final just 2 minutes I have left here at the All American Book Club, I'm grateful that we've had you here this morning. I would love for you to share a little bit about the upcoming projects. I was very intrigued with what you were working on behind the scenes and anything that we can be celebrating with you and anything that we can be encouraging you in and what you have ahead in this coming year.
That's so sweet of you. So in my career right now, I've always just wanna, I've just always wanted to continue acting. But I feel like now as I've gotten older, there's been these opportunities and just also wanting to continue in my creative space of being a producer.
Mhm.
One of those passion projects we have that I just constantly would love people to pray about and support is about the female pilots in World War II. It's called Avenger Field,
Mhm.
and it's a really amazing story. We've also been working with a veteran center in Washington, D.C., and just have a real love and heart for these families. And so that's something we're continuing to push up the hill. And our little production company, North Rose Pictures, we're trying to just create more elevated, excellent content and find places that will air this and will partner with us.
Mhm.
Um, and constantly just looking for people like, listen, this content doesn't come about just out of thin air. It is backed and created not only by the creatives who write it, but by the financial people who choose to either buy a subscription to a network or invest and support these artists that can. And if we could all come together as a body to create good content that goes out and boom, makes an impact, it's like we can start having these conversations and we can see things change. I came from a really big, big, big city that had a massive homelessness problem. And I've
Yes.
now moved to a different part of the country that doesn't seem to have that much of one. But I do go down the streets and I see individuals sitting with people with takeout boxes and meeting these people and
Yeah.
having conversations. And I'm moved by that, and these kinds of um, awarenesses of what we've done for our country in the past in World War II, what these women did, what they sacrificed, how they were mamas, and they just stepped forward into what was needed. That inspires people to do things. And content like this, like what's on Great American Pure Flex, hopefully inspires families to have conversations and make change. So, all
Emily,
of
I am honored to hear what you just shared about the veterans and what happened in World War II. I am a veteran spouse. So on my
awesome.
other, separate from this show, I am all about inspiring and working with our veterans to make sure that they have the best care possible. And also the veteran spouse community and
Yes.
our military families. This is
And the kids and the
and the
military
kids
kids. I'm
and the
married to a
military.
military kid. I
Yes,
know.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
April was month of the military child, and this
Mm,
month is month of the
awesome.
military appreciation. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I would love to have you come back when the time is appropriate to
Yeah.
talk about what you were doing
Yeah.
for the World War II generation and our
Yeah.
military families.
I
So
love that. I
Emily
love that.
Rose, thank you so much for your
Thank
beautiful
you.
spirit. Thank you for walking by faith and not by
You.
sight. This is your Esther moment. So for
Thanks,
such a
girl.
time,
I receive it for such a time, girl, for
yes,
such a time.
for such a time as this. Many blessings to you, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you.